stop scrolling right now, because the penny sitting in your pocket could be worth thousands, even hundreds of thousands of dollars. Welcome back to Old Worth Coin, the place where ordinary coins turn into life-changing treasure. Today, we're revealing the top 4 wheat pennies that collectors are desperately hunting for. And guess what? Some of these are still out there in circulation. So before you spend another penny, watch this video till the end, because missing even one detail could cost you a fortune. Coin number 1 is the legendary 1943 D. Lincoln Wheat Penny. And this coin is one of the most fascinating and valuable stories in the entire world of coin collecting. At first glance, it might look like just another old penny, but the truth behind it could turn a simple coin into a life-changing discovery. To understand why this coin is so important, we need to go back to 1943, right in the middle of World War II. During this time, copper was desperately needed for wartime equipment like ammunition and electrical wiring. Because of that, the United States Mint made a historic decision. They stopped using copper for pennies and began producing them using zinc-coated steel instead. That's why nearly every 1943 penny you'll ever find has a silver or gray appearance instead of the usual copper color. But here's where things get incredibly interesting. A very small number of leftover bronze planchets from 1942 were accidentally left in the minting machines. When the 1943 pennies were struck, a few of them were mistakenly made using this copper-based metal instead of steel. These are known as the 1943 bronze pennies, and they are among the rarest and most valuable coins in American history. Now, when it comes specifically to the 1943D version, minted in Denver, it becomes even more rare. In fact, only a handful of genuine 1943D bronze pennies are known to exist, making them one of the ultimate dream coins for collectors. Because of this extreme rarity, these coins have sold for hundreds of thousands of dollars, and in some cases, even close to or over $1 million depending on condition and authenticity. Imagine finding a coin like that in your pocket change. It sounds unbelievable, but stories like this have actually happened. That's why collectors are always checking every single coin carefully, because the difference between a common coin and a fortune can come down to one tiny detail. Now, you might be wondering how you could tell if you have one of these rare coins. There's a simple test you can try at home, the magnet test. Since most 1943 pennies are made of steel, they will stick to a magnet. But if you find a 1943D penny that does not stick, that's your first big clue that it could be something special. Another thing to check is the color. Steel pennies have a silver-gray look, while the rare bronze versions will have that classic copper tone. You can also weigh the coin. A bronze penny typically weighs about 3.11 grams, while a steel penny is lighter, around 2.7 grams. However, it's important to be careful because there are many fakes and altered coins out there. Some people plate steel pennies with copper to make them look valuable, while others may change the date on a 1948 coin to make it look like 1943. That's why if you ever think you found a rare 1943D bronze penny, you should have it authenticated by a professional grading service. This step is absolutely crucial because it confirms whether your coin is real and protects you from being misled. Even if you don't find a rare bronze version, don't ignore the regular 1943D steel penny. In uncirculated condition, especially with a clean surface and strong luster, these coins can still carry a nice premium. Collectors value high-quality examples, and coins that have been well-preserved over the decades can still sell for a good amount of money. The story of the 1943D wheat penny is a perfect example of why coin collecting is so exciting. It shows how history, rarity, and a simple mistake at the mint can come together to create something incredibly valuable. This is more than just a coin. It's a piece of history that represents a time when the world was at war, and even the smallest details, like the metal used in a penny, were influenced by global events. Coin number 2 is the incredibly famous 1955 Lincoln Wheat Penny. And this coin is known for one of the most dramatic and valuable minting errors ever discovered in U.S. history. At first glance, it might look like an ordinary old penny, but if you look closely, this coin can reveal something truly extraordinary. We're talking about the legendary 1955 double die obverse, a coin so unique that even beginners can spot its rare feature with the naked eye. To understand why this coin is so special, let's go back to how coins are made. During the minting process, a design is pressed onto a die, which is then used to strike coins. In 1955, something went wrong at the mint. The die received a misaligned double impression during its creation, meaning the design was stamped twice in slightly different positions. When coins were struck using this faulty die, the result was a dramatic doubling effect on the front of the coin. This doubling is especially visible on the date 1955, the word liberty, and the phrase "In God We Trust." The letters appear bold, thick, and slightly shifted, almost like a shadow or a blurred image. What makes this error so exciting is how clear and strong it is. Unlike many coin errors that require magnification to see, the 1955 double die is obvious even at a quick glance. That's why it has become one of the most famous and desirable error coins in the entire numismatics world. Collectors from all over the globe search for this coin, and demand remains extremely high even decades after it was first discovered. Because of its rarity and popularity, the value of a genuine 1955 double die penny can be astonishing. Depending on its condition, these coins can sell for tens of thousands of dollars, and in some cases, even more. High-grade examples with sharp details and minimal wear are especially valuable and often appear in major auctions where collectors compete to own one. Now, here's where things get really important. Not every 1955 penny is valuable. In fact, most 1955 wheat pennies are completely normal and worth only a small amount. The key is to carefully examine the coin for that strong, unmistakable doubling. Many people confuse machine doubling or damage with the real double die, but the genuine version has a very distinct, separated look in the letters and numbers. Once you've seen it, it's hard to miss. There are also a lot of fakes and altered coins out there. Some people try to create a fake doubled effect or sell coins that don't have the true error. That's why, just like with other rare coins, authentication is crucial. If you believe you found a real 1955 double die penny, it's always best to have it verified by a professional coin grading service. This ensures that your coin is genuine and helps you understand its true market value. Another interesting part of this story is how these coins entered circulation. Back in 1955, the error was not immediately caught, and thousands of these double die pennies were released into everyday use. People actually spent them without realizing their future value. Over time, collectors began to notice the error, and the coin quickly became one of the most talked about discoveries in coin collecting history. Even today, there are still stories of people finding valuable coins in old collections, jars, or inherited coin sets. That's why it's always worth checking your coins carefully. The 1955 wheat penny is proof that a simple mistake at the mint can turn an ordinary coin into a legendary treasure. Coin number 3 is the 1948 Lincoln wheat penny. And while it might not sound as dramatic as some famous era coins, this penny has a hidden story that many beginners completely overlook. At first glance, the 1948 wheat penny looks like just another ordinary piece of pocket change, especially because millions of them were minted and circulated across the United States. But in the world of coin collecting, even so-called common coins can become valuable depending on their condition, mint mark, and preservation over time. And that is exactly where the 1948 penny becomes interesting. To truly understand this coin, we need to step back and look at the era it came from. The year 1948 was a time when the United States was transitioning into a post-World War II economy. The country was growing rapidly, industries were expanding, and everyday life was becoming more stable compared to the war years. Coins like the 1948 wheat penny were part of daily life, used in stores, vending machines, and everyday transactions without anyone thinking they would one day become collectible items. Most people simply spent them, tossed them into jars, or lost them in drawers. But decades later, these same coins are now being carefully examined by collectors around the world. The 1948 wheat penny was struck in large quantities at multiple U.S. mint locations, including Philadelphia, no mint mark, Denver, marked with a D, and San Francisco, marked with an S. This is important because mint marks play a major role in determining collectible value. While the Philadelphia version is the most common, the Denver and San Francisco issues can sometimes carry slightly higher interest depending on condition and demand. However, the real value of a 1948 wheat penny is not usually found in the mint mark alone. It is found in the condition of the coin itself. When collectors evaluate a coin like this, they look closely at something called grade. Coin grading refers to the condition of the coin, from heavily worn examples to nearly perfect uncirculated pieces. A heavily circulated 1948 penny might show scratches, faded details, and a smooth surface where Lincoln's face has lost sharpness. These are typically worth only a small amount above face value. But when you find a 1948 wheat penny in extremely high-grade condition, with strong original color, sharp details, and no signs of wear, the value can increase significantly. Some of these well-preserved coins are considered red pennies because they retain their original copper shine, which collectors highly appreciate. Now, here is something most beginners don't realize. Copper coins naturally change over time. A fresh 1948 penny would have originally had a bright reddish-orange color. But as time passes, exposure to air, oils, and handling causes the coin to darken into brown or mixed tones. That is why finding a full red 1948 wheat penny today is much harder than people think. Coins that still maintain that original mint luster are far more desirable in the collector's market. Another important factor is strike quality. Not all coins are struck perfectly at the mint. Some may have weak details, while others show strong, sharp impressions. A well-struck 1948 penny will clearly show Lincoln's facial features, the wheat stalks on the reverse, and all the lettering with crisp definition. These details matter because collectors want coins that look clean, sharp, and visually appealing. Even though the 1948 wheat penny is not known for major famous errors like the 1955 double die, it still holds value in certain special cases. For example, coins with minting mistakes such as off-center strikes, die cracks, or repunched mint marks can sometimes be found, and these varieties can increase collector interest. Error coins are always exciting because they are accidental creations, and collectors love anything that makes a coin unique or unusual. But one of the most important lessons about the 1948 penny is this: value is not always about rarity alone. It is also about demand and preservation. Since this coin was produced in large numbers, most examples are common. However, collectors are constantly searching for high-quality wheat pennies to complete sets. That means even a common date like 1948 can become valuable if it fits a collector's goal of building a complete, high-grade collection. Many people underestimate coins like this because they assume only rare dates matter. But in reality, coin collecting is often about small differences. Two coins from the same year can have completely different values depending on condition. One might be worth only a few cents, while another in pristine condition could sell for many times more. That is what makes coins like the 1948 wheat penny interesting. It teaches us that even ordinary coins can become special when preserved properly. Collectors also pay attention to original surfaces. Cleaning a coin can actually reduce its value significantly. A clean 1948 penny may look shiny at first, but to collectors, it loses its natural history and authenticity. That is why experienced collectors always recommend never cleaning old coins, even if they look dirty or dull. The natural aging of the coin is part of its story, and removing it can permanently damage its value. So when you look at the 1948 wheat penny, don't just see it as an old copper coin. See it as a small piece of post-war American history, something that passed through millions of hands during a time of change and growth. And even though most of them are common, a carefully preserved or unusual example can still bring excitement and value to collectors today. Coin number 4 is the 1951 D. Lincoln wheat penny. And at first glance, it might seem like just another common copper penny, but this coin actually carries a deeper story that many collectors overlook. The D mint mark tells us it was struck at the Denver Mint, and in 1951, millions of pennies were produced to support a growing post-war American economy. These coins were used heavily in everyday life, in stores, vending machines, gas stations, and pocket change across the country, which means most of them today are heavily worn and not in great condition. But here's where things get interesting. Even a common coin like the 1951 D can become surprisingly valuable depending on its condition, strike quality, and preservation. To understand its value, we first need to look at how coin grading works. A 1951 D wheat penny that has been heavily circulated will show clear signs of wear. The details on Abraham Lincoln's hair may appear smooth. The wheat stalks on the reverse side may lose sharp definition, and the overall color may turn dark brown due to decades of handling and oxidation. These worn examples are usually worth only a small amount above face value. However, when you find a 1951 D penny in high-grade condition, everything changes. A sharply struck coin with full details and strong surfaces can become highly desirable among collectors building complete wheat penny sets. Now, one of the most important things collectors look for is something called original mint luster. When a coin is freshly minted, it has a natural shine that comes from the striking process at the mint. Over time, as coins circulate and are handled, this luster slowly fades. But if a 1951 D penny has been stored properly, maybe in a coin album, a bank roll, or a forgotten collection, it can still retain much of that original shine. These red or red-brown coins are especially attractive in the collector market because they look closer to how the coin appeared on the day it was minted. Another key factor that can influence the value of the 1951 D wheat penny is strike quality. Not all coins are struck with the same pressure or precision. Some coins come out weak, with soft details, while others are sharply struck, showing clear facial features on Lincoln and well-defined wheat stalks on the reverse. A strong strike can significantly increase a coin's visual appeal and collector demand. Even though the 1951 D is not known for famous rare errors, quality examples in top condition are still actively sought after. That said, there are still some interesting varieties and minor errors that collectors keep an eye out for. For example, repunched mint marks, where the D appears doubled or slightly misaligned. Die cracks or small striking imperfections can occasionally be found on 1951 D pennies. While these errors may not reach the extreme value of famous coins like the 1955 double die, they still add uniqueness and can increase collector interest, especially when combined with high-grade condition. One thing many beginners don't realize is that coin value is not always about rarity alone. It's about demand and preservation. The 1951 D wheat penny was minted in large numbers, so it is not considered rare in terms of mintage. However, finding one in exceptional condition today is much harder than most people think. Millions were spent, lost, or damaged over time, so surviving high-grade examples are far fewer than the original production numbers suggest. Collectors often build entire sets of wheat pennies by year and mint mark, and in those sets, coins like the 1951 D play an important role. Even though it is a common date, a high-quality example is essential for completing a visually appealing and valuable collection. That means demand remains steady, especially for coins that look clean, sharp, and original. Another important detail to understand is the impact of cleaning coins. Many people make the mistake of trying to improve old pennies by polishing or cleaning them. However, in the coin collecting world, this is considered very harmful. A clean 1951 D wheat penny will lose its natural surface and can drop significantly in value. Collectors prefer coins that have their original, untouched surfaces, even if they are slightly dark or worn, because they preserve the coin's authenticity and history. When you hold a 1951 D wheat penny in your hand, you're holding a small piece of early 1950s America. This was a time of growth, rebuilding, and modernization. These coins passed through the hands of everyday people living normal lives, buying groceries, paying bills, and saving change in jars. Most of them were never thought of as collectible items, but decades later, they have become important artifacts that help tell the story of American currency and history. So while the 1951 D wheat penny may not be the rarest or most famous coin in the wheat penny series, it still has an important place in the world of numismatics. It teaches collectors that value is not always about extreme rarity. Sometimes it is about condition, preservation, and demand. And if you ever come across a 1951 D penny, don't ignore it. Take a closer look, because even a common coin can surprise you when it has been preserved the right way. Coin number 5 and final coin is the 1952 Lincoln Wheat penny, a coin that might look simple at first glance, but carries a deeper story that most people completely overlook. At face value, it is just another copper penny from the early 1950s, a time when pennies were everywhere in everyday American life. But in the world of coin collecting, even a common coin like this can become something special depending on its condition, strike quality, and how well it has survived the passage of time. The year 1952 was part of a strong post-war era in the United States, when the economy was growing, industries were expanding, and everyday commerce was booming. Millions of 1952 wheat pennies were produced and used in daily transactions, in shops, vending machines, gas stations, and savings jars across the country. Because they were so common, most people never thought twice about them. They were simply small copper coins used and forgotten. But today, those same coins are carefully studied by collectors who understand that even common coins can hold hidden value. The 1952 wheat penny was minted at multiple locations, including Philadelphia, no mint mark, Denver, Mark D, and San Francisco, Mark S. This mint mark, found under the date, is a key detail that collectors always check. While none of the 1952 issues are considered extremely rare, certain mint combinations and high-grade examples can still attract strong interest. The Philadelphia version is the most common, while the Denver and San Francisco versions can sometimes be slightly more desirable depending on condition and demand. When evaluating a coin like this, condition becomes everything. A circulated 1952 penny may appear dark brown, worn smooth in some areas, and lacking sharp detail. The portrait of Abraham Lincoln might look soft, and the wheat stalks on the reverse may lose definition. These coins are usually worth only a small amount, but they still serve an important role in collections. On the other hand, a 1952 wheat penny in uncirculated or mint state condition can be much more impressive. These coins retain their original mint luster, the natural shine created during the striking process, and often show sharp, clear details that make them visually appealing. Collectors often look for what is called a red 1952 wheat penny. This refers to coins that still maintain their original copper color, which is bright reddish-orange. Over time, most copper coins naturally darken due to exposure to air and handling, turning brown or red-brown. Finding a fully red, well-preserved 1952 penny today is much more difficult than most people realize. That is why these high-grade examples can command stronger collector interest compared to heavily circulated ones. Another important factor is strike quality. Not every coin is produced with the same level of detail. Some 1952 pennies may have weak strikes, where the design appears soft or incomplete, while others show strong strikes with sharp definition in Lincoln's face and the wheat stalks. A strong strike makes the coin more visually appealing and more desirable to collectors who want attractive examples for their collections. Even though the 1952 wheat penny is not famous for major dramatic errors like the 1955 double die, it can still have minor minting variations. These may include small die cracks, slight doubling for machine wear, or repunched mint marks. While these are not usually extremely valuable on their own, they add uniqueness to a coin and can make it more interesting to era collectors. In numismatics, even small imperfections can sometimes increase curiosity and demand. One of the most important lessons about the 1952 wheat penny is that value is not always about rarity alone. It is about survival and condition. Millions were minted, but far fewer remain in excellent condition today. Over decades of circulation, most coins have been scratched, worn down, or damaged. That means a high-quality example is much harder to find than the original production number suggests. This is why collectors are always searching for better condition coins to upgrade their collections. Another key point is the importance of originality. Many beginners make the mistake of cleaning old coins to make them look shiny again. However, cleaning a coin can permanently damage its surface and significantly reduce its value. A clean 1952 wheat penny may look bright temporarily, but collectors can easily identify the unnatural surface, and it will be considered less desirable. Original, untouched coins, even if slightly worn, are always preferred in the collector market. The 1952 wheat penny also represents a piece of everyday American history. These coins were not special at the time they were made. They were simply part of daily commerce, passing through millions of hands during a period of economic growth and modernization in the United States. People used them without thinking, saving them in jars or spending them on small purchases. But today, they have become small historical artifacts that reflect a different era of American life. So while the 1952 wheat penny may not be the rarest or most famous coin in the wheat penny series, it still plays an important role in the world of coin collecting. It teaches collectors a valuable lesson. Even common coins can have meaning, beauty, and value when preserved properly and understood in the right context. In the end, the 1952 wheat penny reminds us that coin collecting is not only about finding rare treasures, but also about appreciating history, condition, and detail. Every coin tells a story, and even the most ordinary-looking penny can become something special when you take the time to look closely.